So about a while ago, Frecklewish was placed in the dark forest on a family tree or whatever, which sparked a lot of debate, although most people assumed it was a mistake. Recently, however, the writing team has published an article confirming and attempting to justify this placement, which also sparked a lot of debate. Today I'll be going over the article and explaining the writing team's flawed reasoning when it comes to their decision to send Frecklewish to the place of no stars. If you enjoy the video, consider subscribing. So they start by saying that they're making this article because their fans' opinions are very important to them, and then they steamroll over that, completely ignoring the points that have been made and making their own claims that they would not have made had they watched a single video made on the subject. They probably still would have reached the same conclusion, but the article would have been very different, as they wouldn't have made the same BS arguments that were debunked several times before they even made them. This shows that they really don't care what the community has to say, as they don't even take the time to listen to our concerns before jumping in and telling us to shut up. If you're not convinced, let's get into the actual content of the article. So the first point they bring up is that she called for Mapleshade and the kids to be banished, violating the rule about protecting kids. This is pretty serious, as it traumatizes the kids forever had they not drowned. The argument that her reaction is excused by her grief exists, and it might be valid had the effects not been so severe. Honestly, I'm not sure what made Frecklewish and Oakstar decide that they should even be taking part in clan life while they were dealing with grief, especially considering that there are several examples of warriors being allowed to take breaks for various reasons. However, while the start of the article was debatable, this is where they start completely misrepresenting scenes. It seems unlikely that Frecklewish saw much of what was going on due to the weather, and she definitely wouldn't have heard large kids screaming over the storm. Again, she wouldn't have been able to see if they were rescued in a flash flood. Also, calling for help would have done nothing, as there was no way anyone would hear her, and attempting to save them herself would make a bad situation worse by adding to the number of drowning people. If the kids were to be saved, it would have to happen without additional ThunderClan cats, as attempting to cross the wall of death would be suicide. Seriously, as someone who has training for saving drowning people, if you can't swim, do not jump in and try to rescue someone, especially not if there are hazards in the way, such as a flood. The only way she could have helped would be after everyone was out, and even then she'd still have to cross the river to be of any use. This is very concerning, as the writing team is telling misinformation to a community of impressionable young children who should not be taking this advice, especially if they are untrained. The end of this paragraph is willfully twisting timelines. The actual scene implies that she did feel remorse, and only got defensive after Mapleshade taunted her. The scene in no way hints that she did not feel remorse or guilt, and if the latter is true, perhaps that's because she isn't guilty. I do believe that there is a case to be made against Frecklewish's decisions during the flood scene, but if you're going to make that call, make it on the grounds that she didn't warn Mapleshade before attempting to cross the river, because other than that, she did nothing wrong. Please read the scenes you're talking about before you embarrass yourself. I would actually agree with this paragraph if it weren't for the arguments they were making in the former one. Frecklewish made some questionable calls which need to be addressed and are not excused by grief or due to Mapleshade's being more significant. But the claim they are pushing here is that she should have committed suicide, which still wouldn't have helped, as seen earlier in Mapleshade's vengeance when Flowerpod drowned, failing to save Birchface, which completely invalidates their claim. Frecklewish did assume someone else would help her, and even if she didn't, there was nothing she could have done that wouldn't have made things worse. I believe that she was negligent surrounding their deaths, but this is due to her failure to attempt to stop Mapleshade from crossing, thus preventing the whole scene. To repeat my earlier point about the drowning scene, and I do know what I'm talking about, attempting to save a non-swimmer from drowning as another non-swimmer isn't going to solve anything. It's just going to create more victims, especially in situations where there are additional hazards. If Frecklewish is to be convicted of manslaughter, it is not because of this scene, but because of what happened before it. Additionally, part of their reason for sending her to cat hell is for not feeling remorse, when this argument was already debunked by several videos. So I'm very disappointed with their reasoning for sending her to the feline purgatory, as there is a solid argument for why this is correct, but the one they chose could not be further from the truth. I'm additionally dissatisfied with the decision to only sentence Frecklewish to eternal punishment when the crimes of Ravenwing and Oakstar were just as bad, if not worse. If you enjoyed the video, consider subscribing. Thanks for watching.